Greetings, Flosstube. It is Tuesday, July 20th, 2021, and it is 2:55 p.m. It has been quite a while since my last video. I double-checked my YouTube channel, and video 35 went live on January 22nd, 2021. And so yeah, it's been a hot 7 months since I've done a video. Now that does not mean I haven't been doing any stitching, quite the contrary. I'm kind of overrun with it, but I just haven't had the chance to make a video before now. Basically, I have been up to my eyebrows in no new starts. So I do have some progress to share. I also have some haul, because just because I'm not starting anything new doesn't mean I'm not preparing to start anything new. It just means I haven't yet. And then I wanted to ask your advice on a little dilemma that I've had. In the grand scheme of things, it's first world problems, but I'll leave that to the end. But I did want to show some progress I've made on several pieces. I haven't really, because I started so many things last year, of course I started no new starts this year, I haven't been working through all of my projects. I've had my favorites that I've been working on more often than others, so I'm trying to spread it out and work on other things as well. But these pieces I'm about to show you are the ones that I've put the most time in on, and the ones that I have the most progress on. The first one I'm going to show you it's called Leafy Street, and it's by Stone Street Stitchworks. I never can say their shop name without tripping all over my tongue. This one is available. Stone Street Stitchworks is on Etsy, and this one is available. It's a very small little pattern. It's basically a red and blue tree with a lamppost and a house, and I have gotten part of the tree done. I am using the called for DMC, and the blue is absolutely my favorite shade of DMC blue. Well, one of my favorites. It's very dark navy blue, DMC 939, and then the red is 3777, terracotta very dark, and then there's also a rosewood very dark, 3857. So I really like how the darker colors make this patriotic but also very vintage looking. So far I have gotten the lamppost and part of the tree done, and I'm absolutely loving this. This is just a scrap of, I think this was a 9 by 9 inch piece of linen that I got in an old Stitchy box. An old Stitchy box subscription one time. It was just a random piece of fabric I had. I really had fun stitching the lamppost, which I'm happy to know that that was a fun motif for me, because I have a Stony Creek pattern book that's Christmas patterns, and there's one, it's more of a winter pattern than Christmas, but it's a lamppost. It's got some greenery around it, and I believe, if I remember correctly, it's got a cardinal sitting on the lamppost, which is why I got the pattern. So I know now that I will enjoy stitching, excuse me, stitching that one. So, you know, this one, I don't have a whole lot left to do. Excuse me. It's not COVID, trust me. I've still got to put in this side, and then there's another, this red motif up here, and then put in the other two branches that are like this one. So there's a little bit of work left to do, and then there's going to be a house down here. I'd say I'm maybe halfway done with that, but I can't remember who I saw stitching that, but whoever it was, it just really caught my eye. So that's one that I worked on over the 4th of July. Now, we had just gotten back from vacation. We got back on the 3rd, so I wasn't really motivated to do a whole lot with the post-vacation letdown that you get, but I did work on that a little bit. I always try to stitch patriotic stuff on the patriotic days. And speaking of patriotic stuff, I actually took this one to the beach with me and made a little progress, but this one's in timeout because I was stupid. This is one that I've told you before, absolutely ticked all my buttons when I saw it, and I can't for the life of me remember which Flosstuber was working on it. But it's a re-release of a 2008 special release from Little House Needleworks called The Heart of America. This is the first pattern where I've ever stitched a house. But now that I have stitched a house, I've kind of become slightly obsessed with it. And when I do get to where I'm starting new things, I have a couple of houses I want to stitch. Before I went to the beach, I had finished the piece block with the house. I had finished the Liberty block down to the little flower plant, the planter, and still got a button to put on there. And then the heart I was working on at the beach. So the next one over I started last week, the Old Glory, but I cocked it all up big time because I stitched the stripes wrong. So this one is actually in timeout for the time being because yours truly started the flag with a white stripe instead of a red stripe. I mean, really. So I'm pretty pissed at myself, and this is not gonna come out anytime soon. You can see where I'm frogging the flag stripes because I was like, oh my god, seriously? I obviously was not thinking when I stitched that, and yeah, it pissed me off. So anyway, this one's in timeout for now, but I absolutely love this piece. Now, there are buttons from Just Another Button Company that adorn this, but I'm not going to put them on until the end. There will be a sheep under the tree here, a bird by the planter, and then there's a couple of star buttons with the flag, and stars on the bottom of it, and an acorn on the other side where you put the date in. But I absolutely adore this. This is a 32 count piece of Tobias from, I believe it's from Seraphim Fabrics. So it's just a perfect neutral, it's an even weave, just perfect all the way around until I screwed up the flag. So this one is in timeout for a skosh, but you know, haven't we all done something like that where we're just like, really, why did I do that? I was stitching, it was last week when I had a day off from work, because even though I'm getting paid for full weeks, I'm not working full weeks right now. That's a long story that nobody tuned in to hear. But last week I had Wednesday off, and I spent all morning Wednesday working on that, and I was like, oh crap, really? Seriously? But anyway, this is still my favorite piece. It's just, you know, you love your kids even when you have to punish them, right? So that's Heart of America. And it's not going to be my only Little House Needleworks piece I stitch, I'm pretty sure. Let me see here. Did I bring that over for... Yes, I did. Okay. Then another piece that was driving me crazy that was in timeout, but when I fixed the issue, I'm really back to enjoying it again, is... I don't know why I started all the big things last year. I could have started a bunch of smalls, but I started Rosewood Manor patterns, Long Dogs, I mean, you name it, I started it if it was big. And this is no exception. Now, this one is smaller than the next Rosewood Manor I'm going to show you. But there's just something about this pattern that really just checks all the boxes for me. Quaker Diamonds. Now, I have seen people stitching the seasonal Quakers, autumn, winter, spring, and summer Quakers. And I like those, but it seems like everybody is doing them, and I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. So not a whole lot of people are doing Quaker Diamonds. Plus, I love geometric stitching. You've heard me say that before in other Flosstube videos. So this is the piece. I'm still on the first page. This one, I think it was just a combination of not paying attention and being tired when I was working on it. So this one was in timeout. I started this, it was last fall, I believe, or it may have been last summer. When did I? No, it was actually last May. And I worked on it over the summer, but I kind of got disenchanted with myself with it in the fall, so I didn't really have it out toward the end of the year much. Here's what I've gotten done. I'm still on the first page. That's as far down as the first page goes, but there's still a lot of this diamond to fill in, and then there's some just simple little diamond border up here with a couple more letters. The problem I had was this diamond here. Now it's blank in the middle because you're supposed to put the date that you finish it in there, which I will, and it probably won't be till 2022. But for some reason, trying to stitch round diamonds just messed with my mind. I just kept making mistakes, and I'm like, this is Valdani thread, folks. It's not cheap. I don't want to keep on the frog expensive silk thread. But it turned out, I eventually got it. It was just, I think, trying to use circles to make a diamond, it just messed with my head. Now, what I love the most about this piece, I actually really love the Valdani threads. I believe the other seasonal Quaker patterns use them too. But if you look at this diamond here, this is the first motif I finished. It looks like it's got, there's a little part in there I need to fix that came unraveled. Over here you'll see that the bars on the top and bottom are missing. I've just got to add those back. But it looks like the diamond itself is made out of two different colors. And the green stems of the flowers, and even the flowers themselves look like they're made out of different colors. Those are all the same color of floss. So the brown around here is all one floss. But it's just that well done with the variegation on the thread that it looks like you swapped out colors back and forth like a maniac, which if I had to, I wouldn't stitch this. Another example is here in the purple, or even in the black. You can see how it goes to gray. And even if you look at the bird here, which this is a very common motif in Karen Kluba patterns. I've got to put his beak on him, so I just gave up before I finished the bird, but I'll show you in the next Rosewood Manor pattern. This is actually a very common motif she puts in her samplers, but if you can see, I don't know, I've got my ring light on, I hope you can. The head of the bird looks like it's gray and the body's black, but it's all the same thread. So I really love the intensity of the variegation that you get with the Valdanis without having to change, threads out. And as I've showed you before, they're in these balls, and you use one strand. I know the last time I talked about this cross stitch on the video showed you that, but you use the whole strand. Normally when you use DMC, you separate it. It's a 6-stranded embroidery floss. This is just one. So, but you get excellent coverage, and you get absolutely beautiful shading and color changes without having to go back and forth between, like, say, 3 or 4 different colors of DMC. Trust me, if you had to do that, I'd be like, nope, too much trouble. I'm getting lazy in my old age. So that's Quaker Diamonds by Rosewood Manor. And since we're talking about Karen Kluba and the Rosewood Manor patterns, this is the one piece I know if I just stitched it monogamously, I could definitely get this one finished. Not anytime soon because I'm only a third of the way through it, but I could have it done by this time next year because I love this piece this much. I'm stitching it with the DMC that it calls for. Those of you who follow me on Instagram have seen me posting probably ad infinitum about this piece, but for those of you who don't, it's the A Tree by Itself sampler, which, isn't it amazing? I have had this in my stash probably at least since 2015, although it could be older than that. I know the pattern dates back to 2010, but I don't think... I don't think I bought it then. I think I may have gotten it the last time I was at Salty Yarns in Ocean City, Maryland. So you see all the different motifs. If you look there, those birds are very, very close, if not exactly the same, to the bird in the autumn Quakers. Trying not to get too much light glare. I'm still getting used to using this ring light, but the problem is always going to be lighting because my apartment's kind of dark. Turn it down just a scotch and see if that helps, so it's not too much glare on the piece. I started this in December of 2018 after I lost my last full-time job. This I'm stitching as a tribute to my father, who worked in the forestry industry, and as of, let me see when I got this. As of June 17th, I am a third of the way done. It's a 15-page pattern. So I got a third of the way done on the 17th. I'm stitching this on just a off-white, or, well, no, it's not off-white, it's just pure white, 28 count Zweigart linen. It was a piece of fabric I actually bought in early 2018 when I was back in my ice dyeing phase and experimenting with all that. And I used a lot of scraps of fabric I already had to practice my techniques. So I bought this fat half of Zweigart just plain white, thinking I was going to dye it. But then I ended up with something like 30 some odd pieces of hand-dyed fabric, so I didn't need to cut this up and dye it. So fortunately I had it, because on 28 count this piece is going to be like, what was my calculation? 25 by 22, because it's 300 by 270 stitches. So I needed the big piece of fabric, and I already had it, and I had most of the DMC flosses. So I'm going to have to stand up and scooch back. But this is already a third of the way through, then finishing this. I call this the Gatsby tree, because doesn't it look kind of Art Deco, like something from the 20s, like something from Gatsby? And then you'll see there, those birds are very, very similar. These birds here are basically the ones that are in the other. I just didn't get the beak sewn on the one on the other. But is this not incredible? And I'm convinced if I actually was faithful just to one piece at a time, I could get this done by this time next year. But that's not how I roll. I am not. And I love this saying, hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth, and hold on what to, oh, I think I need to slow down. Hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth, and hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. So, I have to say my favorite tree, there's been a problem tree on every part of this pattern, but my favorite tree is this orange and green one. Now, I had a bit of a dilemma because I thought I made a mistake, but actually, to square everything up, so to speak, this one tendril of green is one stitch longer than the other three, so that it's actually a circle that will jive with the tree trunk. And I thought I made a mistake, and I thought I was losing my mind because I couldn't figure out where it was. But when I actually looked at it, it's not as symmetrical as it looks like it would be. So once I figured out that I hadn't made a mistake, I felt better about that. There have been problem trees on every page. This one, by far, has been the biggest problem because, this is stark white fabric. So frogging that real dark greenish black, it just left behind threads, and I had to actually get an unused toothbrush and brush the threads off of it. Now fortunately it didn't stain the fabric or anything, but anytime you use a light fabric with dark threads, it's kind of a difficult thing to pull the threads back out. Now this is an example of stitching something like this on such sheer fabric is very fiddly because I had to cut my thread every time I stitched one of these purple blocks. Because normally if I was stitching on a darker color, I would just, stitch and then count over and stitch here and then, but if you do that on a light fabric, you'll see the dark thread through the fabric. So that is the only thing that informs this piece being a bit fussy. If you look at all the little fiddly bits that you have to cut the threads and just move down a little, like the fill in these blocks, even the center part on that tree, these little just single squares around there, it's a bit fiddly, but I absolutely love it. And I didn't want to stitch it on a colored fabric anyway that was going to interfere with the colors of the trees. And I was afraid if I tried to use a neutral pattern, since there's a lot of neutral vintage colors in there, that it wouldn't stand out. So I think stitching it on the white fabric is the best choice. It's just, it makes it take a little longer when you can only stitch like 3 stitches here, go, cut your thread, go down here, make another little triangle, it gets a little fiddly, but I still think this was the best choice of fabric. So yes, this has my heart. This piece will always have my heart. And somebody asked me one time on my Instagram account, do you keep all your pieces that you've ever stitched? And the answer is no. Actually, pretty much 98% of everything I've ever done, I've given away. I have 4.5 pieces over nearly 30 years of stitching that I've kept. And I say a half because I've got this little thing in my kitchen that says God blesses his kitchen, but he doesn't clean it. And it was mostly just backstitched letters. So that's nothing fancy. That doesn't count as a full one. That's a half a one. So, but this one I am keeping. Andrew, Eliza, I don't care which one of you fights over who gets this when I'm dead, but if you dare give it to a thrift shop, I will come back and haunt your asses, because this, I have been working on this. In December it'll be 3 years, and it'll probably be another full year before I get it done. So fair warning, one of y'all has to keep this when I'm dead. That's all I'm saying. And if you don't, come on, I'll be dead. I'll have all of eternity to waste doing other stuff. So first priority will be to come haunt your asses. Now, I know my niece and nephew wouldn't get rid of that. And then the only other piece that I've really made any significant progress on is one of my long dog samplers. This one is cool. I know I've talked about it before in other videos, but it's been a dog's age since I have. So basically this one is called Dilemma. And it's basically a design your own sampler, because she gives you, the designer gives you the border. Everybody's border will be the same, but then, so it would be like a 9-patch square on a quilt, but then you have 16 different motifs. So you can see here I scribbled down all the different motifs I plan to stitch, just to personalize it. So there's, what is 16 factorial? That, if you do 16 factorial, that'll tell you how many tens of thousands of combinations of this particular piece could exist out there in the wild. For some reason, I remember that from math class, but it's all I can do to balance my checkbook at times. So I'm stitching this on a piece of fabric flare. It's called Melted Crayon. And fabric flare is screen printed, because on the back it's white. And then you've got your whatever, you can see it's like a sunset, but this is melted crayon. So it is melted crayon, isn't it? No, excuse me, it's not melted crayon, it's colored pencil, but I knew it was something to do with art supplies. So you can see here I have started the border. And I got bored with the border. I like the elephants, though. It was interesting to me to see how the elephants eventually took shape, because as I was stitching it, it didn't look like that until I got more of the border put in. And then it actually finally did make sense. But yeah, so this is the first block is going to be the castle, and it's going to have 2021 in there when I finish stitching that. I am stitching it with variegated silk thread from Madrid from Mrs. Sadis Silks. And Sadis means silks anyway in Spanish. And it's the colorway Oxide, and it's really an interesting kind of, it's like brown and yellow and orange and a little bit of black. Kind of a grungy color, but I liked it. So that's where I've gotten with that. I actually made a lot of progress on that one over the past few months. I really love stitching with the silk threads. And yeah, this one was one I started last year in a fit of pique because I was pissed off about everything going on at the time. And I think we're going to be gearing up to be pissed off again. But just remember, if there's another lockdown, you heard it here first. And I was actually saying it a few months ago too, but I hope I'm wrong, but something tells me I'm not. So those are the pieces that I've made the most significant progress on. Not to say that I haven't worked on some of my others, but, you know, just those are the ones that have gotten the most attention in the past few months. So I thought I would share some haul. Don't ask me why I'm buying things if I'm not starting things, because that's just... I wish Cross Stitch Haul was the fountain of youth, because... hell, I'd be immortal at this point. Some of these things I'd had my eye on for a while. Some of them were slight impulse buys. But I bought this one. It's another Rosewood Manor. Now, I initially bought this one because the colors, these are all Weeks Dye Works, and the colors are just freaking phenomenal. Like all my favorite oranges and yellows, and oh my gosh, sockeye, which is a salmon pink, and fuchsia and yellow, and so I bought this one. But fortunately, I don't have a big enough piece of fabric to stitch this on, so that's keeping me from starting this. It's the Sunrise, and she did a sunset one, of course, as a companion. But I like the colors in this one better. What drew me to it is the sun motif here. I mean, that is just freaking gorgeous. And I love this row in the sampler that has that dark orange. Purple is my favorite color, but I'm really becoming a fan of orange over the past few years. And I think it's because I'm a fire sign. I'm a Leo. So, yeah, orange, summertime, heat, fire signs. Although Sagittarius and Aries is also a fire sign, but I'm right smack in the middle of the road fire sign, so. But the real reason is because you know how Karen Kluba, those of you who've stitched her patterns before, she always gives you a little couple of just motifs and little smaller versions of her sampler. She has one that says Good Morning Sunshine, but there's one that says Hello Sunshine in here. That's really the reason why I bought it. Those of you who are fans of Stephanie Powers know exactly where I'm going with that one. For those of you who aren't, she's fucking awesome. You should be. Pardon my French. But last year during the pandemic, when a bunch of other hoity-toity celebrities were lecturing us, she got on her Twitter account and did the cutest little video of her talking about the toilet paper shortage. It was in last April. And she said that the folks at her house were using Hello Sunshine cocktail napkins. So Hello Sunshine has become a thing amongst her fans. So yeah, I really want to stitch the little Hello Sunshine, which wouldn't take very long, but I'm trying not to start new things, which is part of my dilemma, but like I said, I'll bring that up at the end. Now this one actually is kind of sad. A lot of floss tubers and longtime cross stitchers who are into samplers rant and rave about Blackbird designs. Now, I've never terribly much cared for the samplers. I mean, this technically is a sampler because it's like different, motifs and things. I'm talking about the vintage old school ones with the alphabets and the sayings on them, and they were stitched by Mary Scott when she was 11 years old in 1814 or something. I have never really liked those patterns, so I've never stitched Blackbird designs, but a lot of the Flosstubers I watch, like Brenda and the Serial Starter, and Saltbox Stitcher, they are huge sampler aficionados, and I've seen some really beautiful Blackbird design samplers. Well, sadly, one half of the duo that produced Blackbird design samplers passed away on July 4th. Barb Adams was one half of the Blackbird designs. And she passed away. I think it was rather suddenly. I don't think it was expected. So yeah, the cross-stitch world lost an amazing designer just a few short weeks ago. And this is the one pattern, because it has a house in it and the colors are freaking phenomenal. This is the one pattern I saw not too long ago, but it was from 2014, but I must have come across it a couple years ago, that I always thought, oh, that's one I would stitch. That's one of the few Blackbird designs I would stitch. It's called Strawberry Fields Forever, and yes, it is based on the Beatles song. She was a huge Beatles fan, and so she created a 6-part, she called it the Magical Mystery Tour series, to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Beatles being on Ed Sullivan in 1964. So this pattern series came out in 2014 for the 50th anniversary. Is that not the most gorgeous thing you have ever seen? I mean, it's got the gate, it's got the bricks, it's got the house. The colors are fantastic. So she did Strawberry Fields Forever. She did Yellow Submarine, which is absolutely precious, but I doubt I would ever stitch that. Octopus's Garden, which I have coming in because I love all things nautical in that respect, which you'll see a further example of that in a minute. We go further diving into my haul. Then she did Eleanor Rigby. Let's see, it was Eleanor Rigby, Blackbird, Strawberry Fields Forever, Octopus's Garden, Yellow Submarine. What was the 6th one? I know because I looked it up. It was Eleanor Rigby, Blackbird, Strawberry Fields Forever, because she was a huge Beatles fan to the day she passed away. So she did her Beatles tribute. Oh, crap. Well, there's a 6th one, but it was basically Blackbird, Eleanor Rigby, Yellow Submarine, Octopus Garden, Strawberry Fields Forever, and then the mystery 6th one I can't think of. But is that not beautiful? So someday I'll stitch it in tribute to her. But I love the colors, and the threads are all Gentle Arts sampler threads with 2 weeks dye works. But the color, so I will stitch it with the called for threads. She did give you the DMC equivalents, but no, this piece has to be stitched with, it's just got to be stitched with the called for. And you see how she always stitched her initial into it. I'm probably going to leave it as a B, as a tribute to her. Her initial there, and then she gives you the alphabet. You can put your initial in. And like I said, I have Octopus's Garden coming, but it's just not here yet. But yeah. Ms. Adams, wherever you are, I'm sorry I was late to the game, but better late than never. So let's see. Okay. Back to talking about Stephanie Powers. Oh, shit. Okay, hang on. Hold that thought. There was another piece I wanted to show you. Dang it. And please pardon my profanity. It's late in the afternoon. I'm getting a sinus headache because I think it's going to rain again. And I meant to show you this because this is the one piece that I have worked on that has had the most meaning to me of anything I've done in a long time. Speaking of Stephanie Powers, and William Holden, even though we weren't, but we are now. Oh, thank God I thought of that, because I would have been pissed had I gone back and watched this and realized I hadn't shown it to you. Here we go. Well, last year I had decided I was going to join No New Starts. And something just told me that I hadn't been to Clouds Factory, their website, in a while. And to just go over there and look. I wasn't looking to take on a new project, but something in my head was saying maybe you should check out Clouds Factory. Well, in the middle of December, actually, after I had actually already declared all my pieces for No New Starts, I went over there and found out that their stitch-along, their year-long stitch-along this year, was going to be dedicated to endangered species and called There Is No Planet B. And I was like, okay, I've got to do this because my dedication to the William Holden Wildlife Foundation and to Stephanie, this has got to be something that I do. And then I thought, I can research the animals that I'm stitching and write blog posts about them and use that as a way to educate people. So like this whole thing just shot through my head in like a flash of inspiration, which I am now convinced Mr. Holden himself inspired me to do, but that's a whole other weird conversation for a video that has nothing to do with cross stitch. So we're not going there. Well, I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to start it. But you get a freebie. You get one cheat for the entire year that you can start after the challenge started on January 1st. You get one cheat. So I had already declared my cheat on January 1st. And the first part of the pattern dropped on the 10th. And now every month since, I have gotten the second part of the next part of the pattern in my email on the 1st of the month. So this, and those of you who follow my Instagram have already seen this. This is There Is No Planet B. Now, I'm behind. I am woefully behind. January, we got the okapi I named Dolly, the black-footed ferret named Betty. February, we got Ricky the black rhino, who is a native of Kenya, and Susie the sea otter. March was Peter the puffin. Now, these are all names I've chosen. It doesn't have anything. The names don't have anything to do with the pattern. Just, I name things. I'm annoying that way. So March was Peter the puffin and his little puffling, which is what you call a baby puffin, and I named her Pauline. Then those of you who are Stephanie fans will understand this. Patricia the pangolin. If you're not, she played a character named Patricia in a Hammer horror film when she was starting out, called Die Die My Darling with Tallulah Bankhead. Yeah. And then she actually played Tallulah in a Broadway production of a play called Looped, which was about, it was more like a retrospective on Tallulah's life, but it was based on an actual event that happened around the filming of Die Die My Darling, where she had to come in to loop her dialogue, and she was so freaking sloshed. It took her 8 hours to loop one line of dialogue that she had to re-record. Anyway, I digress. But Patricia was Stephanie's character's name in that. So Patricia the pangolin. April was Axel the axolotl. I know, that's real original, huh? And then you see Geraldine the great hammerhead. But what brought me to my knees for a while doing this was when I got May's pattern. It was a blue whale and a hawksbill sea turtle, but look at how they were looking at each other. I was like, holy shit, that's Bill and Stephanie. That is Mr. Holden and Ms. Powers. I've got to name them Bill and Stephanie. And that's why I stitched the little heart, because that particular part of the pattern was my tribute to them. So, yeah, it was emotional for me to stitch that. And so that was May, and I finished it the first part of June. I think June 2nd was when I finally finished stitching the little sea turtle. So Bill and Stephanie were done a little later than they should have been. But after that, I had to put it away because I was just, you can see I'm getting emotional talking about it now. Good God, what the hell. Anyway, so I got really emotional stitching that part of it because that was my tribute to the two of them. So yeah, I'm behind. I'm stitching June's part now, which will be, it's going to be George the gharial, which is a type of aquatic crocodile that lives in Africa that eats fish. And then you can see I've started Harriet, who's a pygmy hippopotamus that also lives in Africa. That's her little snout sticking up out of the water there. And then July's actually is a gorilla and a whooping crane. Haven't decided what I'm going to name them. I think I said Gary and Willa or something like that. I can't remember what I decided I was going to name them, but yeah, the little tribute to Bill and Stephanie. I mean, that just, I was so emotional stitching that I needed to put some distance between myself and it for a little while, so that's why I'm as far behind now as I am. Y'all, I'm just, yeah. I do feel a very strong connection to Mr. Holden. Part of it is from the fact that I've listened to Miss Power's memoirs like 4 times in the past 2.5 years. You can get it on Audible. It's called One from the Heart, and it's absolutely an amazing book. But also I found a clip of an interview he gave to Dick Cavett. I believe it was in 1970. It was back before he and Stephanie had started dating, and he was talking about, it was a real short clip. You can find it on YouTube. And he was talking about how he transitioned from being a big game hunter to being a conservationist. And I don't know, I just felt some kind of connection with him watching that video. So yeah, it's weird. I know. Oh, and shout out to my girl, Virginia Stitcher. Yeah, when you said your birthday was April 17th, I was like, oh my God, you share a birthday with William Holden. It made myself much more of a nerdlet than I meant to be. So my apologies, young lady. I didn't mean to nerd out on your comment section there like that. So yes, so what I would love to do with this piece, I won't get the final 2 because, you know, we've been getting the 2 animals a month since January, and I won't get the final 2 animals until December. So it's going to take me the rest of the year to get this finished anyway. But what I would love to do is I would love to get this framed in kind of a shadow box. I have a bandana from the foundation that has the logo on it. Then I would like to have, the way I envisioned it is like the bandana, the cross stitch, and then I have a press photo montage of William Holden from like his 16 most memorable movie roles. And it was like, the one in the center was from Network. Then there was World of Susie Wong. There was Stalag 17. There was Wild Bunch, which is a good movie, even if it is a little bit bloody. And then some of his earlier ones that I haven't seen. I've seen like most of his mid-career all the way to the end movies. The very last movie he made was SOB, which if you know that and you watch the end of that, when his character is basically telling Richard Mulligan's character, you know, comets burn out, which is basically what happened to him in the end. It's hard to watch that movie. I mean, I absolutely love SOB, and I love how he's kind of the straight man to a lot of Robert Preston's just completely crazy ass comedy. But it reaches a certain point where it just gets sad. It gets really sad when you know that it's his last film. But anyway, so what I would love to do is, and then I have a press photo of Stephanie, and it was actually really hard to find just a press release photo of her without other actors in it. So I've got one from when she was in her 20s, I guess, 2 black and whites, and then I have a photo transfer that I'm going to get made into a 5x7 of the 2 of them together. And I would love to do the photos and the cross stitch and the bandana. And what I wish I could do, now I need to talk to Kathy. She's the treasurer of the foundation, and she could probably tell me whether or not it's even a good idea to try it. But if I could do that and somehow auction it so that the proceeds would go to the foundation, that is my dream and my goal for this. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I wouldn't want to auction it on eBay because it isn't going to get shit on eBay. I mean, the foundation does have charity donated items that are up. Because I really, really, really want that. I really want to get that heart-to-heart T-shirt that Stephanie signed and get it like put in a frame. But yeah, no. I have a lot of memorabilia I would like to have put in. What I would love to do, because I have Robert Wagner's autograph as well on a couple things, I would love to get that shirt and then have the memorabilia put around it and have like a framed heart-to-heart memorabilia thing. But I don't have the money to bid on the shirt right now. I mean, $150 for an autographed T-shirt is probably reasonable, but I just don't have the money right now. But I do have the memorabilia. And if those of you who follow me on Instagram saw my Girl from Uncle memorabilia too. It's kind of, I don't know. So anyway, where was I? I was rambling about this, wasn't I? So in that vein, I kind of would love to stitch a little something every year. If I could do the auctions, just stitch a little something every year that I could put out to bid and make some money for the foundation. Because, I think you've got to, when you're working with charities, you need to go with what you're good at. And I'm reasonably good at cross stitch. So with that in mind, and I have the other book that Emma Congdon put out, I believe it was last year. This joined my stash. This is her newest book. I don't know what month it was. It's a new book for this year, but I'm not sure. Let's see. It's just copyright 2021. But this is Emma Congdon's latest book, and there is not a single thing in here I wouldn't stitch. But if you can see, there's like some smaller pieces. So like this one that says enjoy all the little things. I could definitely do up a couple of these. And this one really reminds me of Stephanie herself. She started a podcast this year. She actually started it, well, she didn't drop a podcast yesterday. She does it every other Monday, so I guess it was at the end of June or mid-June when she started it. And one of her podcasts, she was talking about, when we approach environmental issues, we can't think of changing the world or our country or even our state. We have to think small and think about ourselves and how we can personally change our lifestyles, because if everybody does that, it'll make a big difference. But you can't let yourself get overwhelmed thinking you've got to change the entire planet. And this particular pattern makes me think of her. That's something she would say. That's absolutely something she would say. That's kind of her take on the whole conservation and environmental movement. Now, I don't know if Emma Congdon has ever done samplers before, but I love this seasonal sampler. That is something I would stitch. It's quite a bit of full coverage, but I love the colors in that. There isn't anything in this book I wouldn't stitch, honestly. And the Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, live in the sunshine, swim in the sea, drink the wild air. And of course it's got her signature typography in it. It's stuck true to that. It's more messages. I love this one because I love trees. The earth has music for those who listen, a William Shakespeare quote, but I love that tree. I love that tree trunk and all the branches going out. And then let's see. Then she did a little series of little smalls. Earth Day Every Day, which is probably the one I would stitch. Less plastic is fantastic. Recycle for the life cycle and don't drop trash in the splash. I love that little whale on the... So some smaller ones, not so that you're not, feeling like you need to stitch all the... Be kind to all that live. That's not necessarily my favorite in the book, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't stitch that. This one I love because it makes me think of Stephanie, because it's a safari theme. All good things are wild and free, which is a Thoreau quote. I love the sun up top there. And like I said, Leo, lions are my spirit animals. Live gently upon the earth. That's got a lot of full coverage, but I love the colors in that. And I like how in this one the negative space makes the words. That's not what she usually does. And I do have her other book. This one I probably is the only one I wouldn't stitch just because I don't like the colors in it, but there is that, just for something different. And let's see what's next. Take care of the earth and she will take care of you. I love that banner in the middle. That's what I love about her typography, is just the different. This one I'm definitely going to stitch someday. This is just a sea collage. And she wanted to do something with a flapjack octopus, so she did a sea collage. But a lot of those creatures I can see. I mean, we have, when we went to Hilton Head, I learned this year, not only are horseshoe crabs endemic to the area, but also stingrays are. And a friend of mine just sent me today, she sent me a link to a video of a woman who saw a shark sighting off just in the shallows on Hilton Head. Turns out it was, I think, called a lemon fin shark or something like that. Harmless to humans, but the reason they were there was because the stingrays. They eat stingrays. So I would much rather see a shark at Hilton Head knowing it was eating a stingray than knowing I could possibly step on a stingray tail and get sick as if I was stung by a jellyfish. Because you actually can, I mean, the southern stingray is not going to kill you if it stings you, but you're going to get sick and it's going to ruin your vacation. So I feel better knowing there's a shark out there eating the thing that can make me sick. I'm fine with that. And actually, when I was doing my research on the great hammerhead for the conservation cross stitch, they have actually been found with all kinds of stingray barbs stuck in their jaws and the side of their mouth and their stomachs, because that's their food source. Better stuck in a shark's face than in my foot. That's all I'm going to say. Then I absolutely love this. This is like different ways to spend time in the great outdoors. I love the whale tail and the raindrops. And I love that sun again. I would stitch that one. So yeah, I would not be too upset at a shark sighting, and if I knew they were there to eat the stingrays. You know, just stay out of its way. You see a shark fin, get out of the water, let it do its thing. It's going to leave after it's eaten its fill of stingrays, and then you won't get sick. It's a win-win if you ask me. Then I like this. This is just all kinds of different tips to help the earth. Now this one is my favorite. John Muir. Between two pines is the doorway to a new world. It's a hell of a lot of green stitching, but it's trees. So yeah, that one I really like. Leave nothing but footprints, kill nothing but time. Again, trees. I'm obsessed with trees. Oh, and I like that this has a bee in the top up there. That's cool. Enjoy all the little things, different bugs and snails and stuff. I have to say, the only time I ever had an encounter with a slug, I stepped on it in my barefoot feet when I was a child. I prefer snails to slugs, let's put it that way. They both have their place, but... Oh, and we're not going to talk about the turtle I accidentally hit with my car earlier this year. That traumatized me for days. I was seriously screwed up by that. Alright, this one is William Butler Yeats, The World is Full of Magic, with some little Antarctic creatures. I like the narwhal. The ocean's unicorn. So that one's cute. And this reminds me of a really sweet story that a friend of mine who lives out in New Mexico told me. She had told her granddaughter that dandelions are food for the bees. So this little 4-year-old precious little angel, she, when her grandmother was gardening, went out to the front yard, pulled up a bunch of dandelions, and planted them in the garden so the bees would have food too. But I love this. Pardon the weeds, we're feeding the bees. It's true, you should leave some dandelions. We don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. That's a very well-known phrase, but I love that mountain and the sun again. that makes me think of state parks, which I did not get to the Pinckney Island National Wildlife Refuge this year when we were in Hilton Head, but that's all of them. But a very great book, timely messages, and beautiful cross stitch. So that is also part of my haul. Now, all things ocean, right? Well, Bill and I hope someday that we can retire to Hilton Head, and when we do, I hope to have some beach-themed stuff, ocean-themed stuff to display in my house. Well, I had seen this one a while ago, but every time I tried to order it, it was out of print. Or not out of print, it just was out of stock. So my gorgeous girl McKenna at 1884 Stitchery finally was able to hook me up with the Alforst Embroidery Atlantis cross-stitch kit. And I am I'm on the struggle bus with the no new starts with this one. Because if this were last year, this puppy would have been out of the box and already on a hoop. But here it is. Let me turn the light down, see if I can get rid of some of the glare. Now I'm having the opposite problem because I got too much light. So Alforst embroidery kits come from Moscow. And they are phenomenal. The pattern is in this package of papers, but I'm not going to undo it because if I undo it, I know I'm going to want to start it. And I can't start anything right now. I'm about to really say screw it, but every Alforst embroidery kit, Alforst embroidery cross-stitch kit comes with 3 needle minders. So these are, there's a seahorse, an octopus, and a jellyfish. You get the threads you need, the specialty threads. Aren't those colors not gorgeous? I actually did buy a bunch of thread when I was at Hilton Head. They've got it's called Needlepoint Junction. And the Monday that we were there, there was a tropical storm that blew through. So we didn't have any time on the beach. So I was like, sweetie, is it going to bother you if I go to Needlepoint Junction today? Because I try to go every time we're there just to pick up some thread. But I don't want to take away from our trip. He's like, fine with me. I'm just going to sit in here and write. So he took a nap. He watched some TV. He was writing. He was fine. But I didn't keep those separate, so I can't show you. But I bought a bunch of like teals and purpley bluey blacks and things that these colors kind of remind me of. So that's all the thread I'll need. And it also, the tags are bobbins. So I'll be able to wind the thread as I use it. I mean, these Russian kits are just very well thought out. And then I've got the piece of fabric. It's just a neutral blue. But I love that they give you the bobbins and all the thread. And it's just, I have wanted this kit for so long. And then you get the, now, I don't know why you would start with an Alforst embroidery kit if you never had. But they give you a little pamphlet that shows you little basics about cross stitch. And of course it's written in Russian and English, but I love the Russian alphabet. I've actually been trying to teach myself Russian, and although there are 36 letters in the Cyrillic alphabet, each one has its own sound and only makes that sound. It's not like English, you know, where you can have an S and an H. And they make their own sounds and you put them together and they make a third. In Russian, one letter, one sound, that's it. So, and one thing I learned, I've been reading a phenomenal book over this summer. I'll grab it here. Edward Rutherford is kind of the James A. Michener of Russia. It's about probably 1800 years of Russian history in a novel. One thing I learned from this book is everybody assumes that the Russian language is Slavic. It's not. Actually, Polish, Hungarian, Romanian, those were the Slavic languages. Russian is actually an amalgamation of ancient Greek and Hebrew. Who knew? But that's a little factoid I learned from this novel, but it's very, very good. It covers like from prehistory all the way through the Russian Revolution. Did I mention I love all things Russian? I'm pretty sure I did when I posted the owl forest stuff on my Instagram feed. But yeah, I never knew that Russian is technically not a Slavic language. Over the past year, I have been a part of the Forbidden Fiber Company Embroidery Floss Club. The way it works is it's $30 a month, and you get 12 skeins of hand-dyed thread, 2 of which every month are one of a kinds that will not be released in their shop. I recently withdrew because I'm just, as you can see, getting absolutely overrun with thread. I sectioned everything out into color families, so we got my purples and my mauves here, and I've got my blues and my grays. I have more blue and gray thread than any other color, actually. But it's really beautiful thread. I've been using it. My greens. What are these? Oh, that's Classic Colorworks. That's not even... Then I've got my pinks and my reds and my oranges. Flamingo I just used in my Flower a Day stitch along. That is eyeball searing. And my yellows, I don't have too many in the way of yellows from them. And then my variegateds. So if you join the Floss of the Month Club, it's $30 a month, but you get 12 skeins. So you can see I am completely overrun with, so I ended my subscription. But I've been trying to build up my specialty floss collection anyway over the past couple years, so I've done good with that. And then I just ordered some Classic Colorworks because I needed one, and I just ordered a bunch because, you know, one skein of floss can't travel alone. So I got a couple of Weeks Dye Works and some Classic Colorworks. This is Colonial Copper, which I don't have very many brown threads. You would think with the kinds of themes I like with trees and stuff I would, but I don't really. This is Old Oak Tree. This one is Red Currant. Red Currant's the one I needed because I needed another one for Heart of America. So you can see that one's the only one I needed, but, you know, Tufted Yellow, which is very, very pale. Then this one, Lemon Lime. This one's kind of an outlier to any other color I have, but it reminds me of a Sprite can. Bing Cherry. Now, if I was going to stitch, I've got a tribal football helmet that I want to do for Bill, and my only problem is trying to find a maroon colored thread, because they can't even get our school colors right at UMass, so I'm trying to make sure I get it right. If I was going to stitch with an overdyed, it might be Bing Cherry, but I think it needs to have a little more brown in it, which is the problem with our school colors. I mean, you know, Texas A&M got it figured out, but we can't figure out that you need brown and red to make it maroon. But it's UMass. Almost Auburn. And because you can never have enough white or white-based threads, I got Vanilla Custard, which is kind of a cream color. Just Rust. And this one is a real pretty pale pink. It almost has no color to it at all. Dulce de leche. I know I didn't pronounce that right. I speak French, not Spanish, guys. And then the Weeks Dye Works colors that I got a Goldenrod. And I got Dahlia, which is actually really not a very pretty color now that I see it in person, but I'll use it in something I make for someone else. And then Carrot. So that's my thread stash. I did also finally get around to ordering Silks for You, PR 146, which is a purple variegated. In the next couple of minutes, I'm going to show you a pattern I think I'm going to use PR 128 on. It's kind of a brownish yellow. It's got like orangey yellow and brown. I'm not going to take them out of the packages because I don't plan on using them anytime soon. But let me get out the pattern that I'm going to use that PR128. Now, the problem with one of these is I have pretty much everything to start it. I'm just trying so hard not to. I'm just trying to live now. This is Sampler Africa. It came from France. It is French pattern that 911 Stitcher showed. This is another one I would love to stitch to raise money for the foundation. It's all a silhouette. So at first I was thinking I would use, this is from Forbidden Fiber Company, and it's called Forest Floor, which I'm thinking if I stick with the fabric I chose. I ordered a piece of fabric from Garon Toten Bags, well, Garon Stitchery, but, you know, the bag guys. Bag, not bad. They're awesome guys, he and Ronnie. I ordered this XJU design 32 count Belfast, and I believe the color is, oh, here it is, Spicy Carrot, which I thought could look like an African sunrise or sunset. So I'm thinking, I don't think this, even though there's a lot of brown, let me take it, I'll just take it out of the package and put it back in a second. But I really think this is too orange for the fabric, so I think that may have just made the decision for me. Yep, okay, I'm not using that for this. I've got, it's called Forest Floor by Forbidden Fiber Company, and I ordered several, I think I ordered a dozen skeins of this. This, I think this Spicy Carrot fabric from XJU Designs, I think that pattern screams for that fabric for some reason. And I think, given that it's the savannah in Africa, that thread, that combination, I just get the feeling will work. So I'm trying to ignore the fact that I could start this if I so desired to just say screw it and give up on no new starts. So that's Sampler Africa, which, like I said, I saw 911 Stitcher, and I was just like, oh my god, that would be the perfect. I mean, that's all supposing that the endangered species one would actually work. But I can't think of anything else I can really do to raise money for the foundation. So, maybe? I don't know. So anyway, these next couple of patterns. Lindy Stitches actually did this last year as a stitch along, and it's one of her patterns she designed, and it's called Funky Menagerie. I mean, don't you really want to stitch something that has a flamingo, an ostrich, a capybara, and a stag beetle in it? I mean, how could you not? And look at that cool border. My girl Lindy, she creates so many cool patterns. I just have to like stay away. But fortunately, I don't have that kitted up yet. It's just designed for DMC, which I'm sure I have the colors in my thread stash, but no. And this one I've at least got halfway kitted. Now, I do have some fabric here I could show you that could work. But this is from Serenita di Campagna, and it's called I Love Cross Stitch, and it drew it to me because it's a heart made out of tree branches. And it's a little girl sitting there, and she's got her sewing notions in the tree. And I just... See, I have to be 643 years old to finish anything that I have planned, so that's a key to immortality, right? And I'm thinking, I bought this from Garon Stitchery as well. This is Mountain Air Fabrics, and it's called Pioneer Trail. It's just a fat half, because I figured if I needed a fat quarter, I could just cut it in half, and that's a fat quarter. It's kind of a pale tan. And then this one is Fairy Wool in the Wood. And this is, what is the name of this one? Sorry. I'm absolutely just making so much noise. But this is Fairy Wool in the Wood, 32 count, hand dyed. Fairy Wool in the Wood at gmail.com is the contact info. Isn't that a cute little way to present this piece of fabric? But I haven't looked at what it looks like. I think this is too dark for that I Love Stitching piece, but this is pretty. Ooh. Oh my God, she coffee dyed it, guys. It smells like coffee. Oh, that is epic. And look at the dye on this. I have no freaking clue what I will stitch on this piece of fabric, but when I do, whatever it is, it will be epic. It'll probably be something nature oriented, because look at it. Look at the modeling. Oh yeah, she coffee dyed that puppy. It smells good though. It smells like my morning cup of which I have come to a conclusion. I have sworn off for good the Dunkin's flavored stuff. From now on, if I'm getting a coffee at Dunkin' in the mornings before I go to work, which I usually do, well, first of all, I need the Dunkin' app, but that's a whole other story. If I'm going to do that, I'm just going to get a cold brew with a dash of sweet cold foam, because I cannot drink their. I got a butter pecan latte on the last day. I mean, I love it. They have the butter pecan latte for like 3 weeks in the summer, and then in August they're bringing back pumpkin spice, which pisses me off because pumpkin spice is revolting because it needs sugar, and I don't usually drink sugar in my coffees. But yeah, I've decided I'm not doing. I love the idea of the Charlie, which is the caramel cold brew with sweet cream in it. It sounds better than it is. It's just way too much sugar, and I'm getting to the point where I can't drink those sugary drinks. And I don't, when I make my coffee here, I grind my beans and I don't put sugar in my coffee. So I'm not even sure why sugar in my coffee became a thing, like going to get something from Dunkin'. But I am not doing the sugary Dunkin' drinks anymore. I really like the cold brew iced coffee with just a little bit of the sweet cold foam, drips down into the coffee and sweetens it just enough that it's drinkable without being like sugar shock. But I think I was going for diabetes in a cup with some of the stuff I was drinking. So yeah, I came to the conclusion this past week I cannot do that anymore. So I think that is it. One very beautiful piece of haul that has nothing to do with anything, although it does sort of. I bought this from the foundation because, like I said, I'm a Leo, and lions are my spirit animal. I love giraffes, but lions are my spirit animals. And if you buy these figurines from the foundation, 100% of the money goes to their charitable work. The one thing that I really love about the William Holden Wildlife Foundation is that Stephanie and the staff don't take pay from everything you donate goes directly to the programs, whether it's the educational programs, the rural outreach, the kitchens, the school kitchens, the libraries. All the money that you donate goes directly to the work that they do. Which is why Stephanie will say at almost 79 she's still working, because she when she flies to Kenya, that's on her own dime, and that's like a $3,000 trip to go to, so she says she has to work because she's not taking any money from the foundation, which is as it should be. But I brought this beauty home, and the really super cool thing, she autographs all of them. And it's funny because somebody asked me one time, well, is that her? Because I've got several things of hers that are autographed. And somebody asked, is that her autograph, or is it just, like a transfer? I'm like, no, it's her autograph. She autographs everything. If you buy her perfume, if you buy these, they're all. And I will say, as a handwriting aficionado, woman's autograph never changes. She has got the most beautifully consistent handwriting. Me, it doesn't matter whether I'm using a pencil or a ballpoint or a fountain pen. My handwriting's always different. Usually because I'm scribbling shit down and I'm not paying attention and trying to make it look nice. But I need to find a place to put Leo. I now have a blank spot on the wall in my living room over there, because when my sister and brother-in-law got divorced, I took down their wedding photos. So I think what I'm going to do, because there are a couple other figurines I would love to have. There's a giraffe one that's absolutely gorgeous that I plan to give my mom for Christmas. And Mom, I hope you didn't just watch that. Because my mom's favorite jungle animal is a giraffe. But I plan to put a shelf where the photographs used to be, and then put a couple of these on there. But I had to just, he's so beautiful. Leo. I know that's real original, right? I'm shit with animal names, y'all. It's a good thing I don't have a pet. He'd probably be named, I don't know, Puppy or something. I'm not quite that bad. So, yeah, so one last little thing here. The dilemma that I mentioned earlier is basically, I'm going to LA at the end of August. And from here, it's going to be a wicked long trip anyway. If I wasn't flying to Orlando to hook up with one of my best friends, it would take longer. Because if I were just flying by myself, I could fly from Hartford to Norfolk to Dallas to LA, and it would take like 10 plus hours. As it is, flying from Hartford to Orlando is almost 3, and then that's another 5 hours on a plane. But, turning that all the way off, that doesn't work. But, oh, man. Okay, there we go. There we go. But, 5 hours straight on a plane, I'm going to need something to do with my hands. I'm going to be fidgeting like a mofo, and I don't want my fidgetiness to feed off on her son, because he's autistic and he's probably going to be, unless he's playing a video game or something, might be a little fidgety himself. So I don't want to be in any way in a way that's going to make him nervous or anything. So, but I don't have, as you can see from most of my projects, they're pretty big. I don't have projects that really travel well. So my dilemma is, do I just wait and take Leafy Lane with me, which I will probably have by the time I get to LA, which would leave me nothing to stitch on coming back? Or do I say screw it with no new starts and start a couple of small things that I can take, that I can not only work on the flight over, but on the way back? So, I mean, I feel proud of myself that I've stuck in for almost 8 months on no new starts. But at the same time, I feel like I shouldn't start anything new, because even if it's small. But then, on the other hand, if I start something small, at least I can get a couple things finished this year, whether or not I stay in the group. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm not going to LA till the end of August, so that's fine. I mean, I've got time to figure it out, but what do you think? I mean, should I just say, no, I've stuck with it this far, I'm not giving up, and just take the one little thing with me and maybe a medium-sized project? Or do I just say, screw it, I want to have a start to take with me on my trip? Which reminds me, I did order Hands-On Designs Resting Beach Face. That is the most adorable. That'll be haul for my next video, but so I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what I should do. But I have a month to figure it out, so. But if you have any ideas, if you could leave them in the comments below, I'd appreciate it. And until next time, of course, I wish you happy stitching and a happy life. And hopefully it won't be 7 months before I do my next video. Love you guys. See you soon.